everyone. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Media Buff Guys, the podcast about anything and everything media related. I'm your host, Ed, and with me are the boys, Matt and Omar. Say hello, fellas.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good evening. How we doing tonight? Good? Yeah, I like that.
Oh, my God. So for today's episode, Matt wanted us to talk about a band called the As the Structure Fails, and an album that I'm guessing just released called In Vain. Matt, go ahead and take it from there. Who is As the Structure Fails, and what is the album In Vain?
Well, As the Structure Fails is a band from Canada, our northern neighbors, and they're a metalcore band. That's the style or genre of music they play. And I will do a deep dive episode on them later because I need to do my research and, get everything compiled together.
Okay, so
This is just a review on their latest album that was released just last year, 2023, In Vain, and I just want to do a review of it.
okay. How many albums do they have?
2. This is the third one.
Okay, what are the other ones?
The first one was...
I have it right here in front of me. Is As the
Alpha,
Structure Fails, which is just the self-titled album, and then Alpaca Tech?
Yeah.
Okay, Alpaca Tech is their first album, and then As the Structure Fails is their self-titled album.
Mm-hmm.
And this, yeah, like alpaca, like an alpaca. Which makes sense because they spit. I mean, they do. So we're gonna go ahead and just talk about this most recent album. What makes this band so special that you want to do a review?
Well...
Like, because last time I checked, it was all about the Lorna Shore. No, but go ahead. What
I've
makes this
actually
band
been
so...
a fan of theirs since their first album.
Are
They released a song called Undesired.
Is that from...
That's from their second album.
this album? Okay.
And that's when it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, this band, like, that's what really did it for me. But, like, what I really enjoyed about them from the first time around is that they had that old school metalcore of, like, Hatebreed and, like, a Parkway Drive, where it's just, like, really aggressive, in your face type of music.
Okay.
And then, like, that was some nice saucy breakdowns.
How did you discover this band?
I was just looking for new music on Spotify. And
Good
it
old
popped up.
Spotify. Was it recommended by their algorithm, or did you yourself find it?
The algorithm. I just typed in metalcore.
Not gonna lie, their algorithm is pretty on.
Yeah,
on
it's
point.
like depending on what like you listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been listening to like a lot of old school hardcore, like Comeback Kid, right? Recently, is what I've been in the mood for, and then. Like they, how they give you your daily listen list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They lined up a really good list for me to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Of all kinds of bands it's pretty much like a good mix of Knocked Loose, Comeback Kid, and all these other bands that are very similar to them.
Right. And as far as this band goes, what kind of stood out to you in regards to why you like their music?
Like they have some like good like lyricism through their songs.
Yeah.
Right? The song In Vain off of this one is a very emotional one for them.
Yeah. Omar and I actually did listen to. Well, I listened to it. Omar listened to it as best as he could, and I gotta say, as far as metalcore goes, you guys know I'm not a huge fan of it, but I don't dislike it either. It definitely did have a couple of good songs. For instance, I liked Over the Edge, The Promise, Forgotten, and In Vain. There's 8 tracks to it,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll go ahead and put the playlist on the YouTube if you're watching it there, so you can just check it out for yourself. One thing I liked is the fact that they had some pretty clean lyrics. It wasn't all just like bunch of grunge growling and whatnot like most metal bands.
You mean screaming?
I mean, there was definitely plenty of that, but other than that, it had some decent tones and pretty consistent, I guess you can call it flow. A couple of the songs actually reminded me of other songs. Like, for instance, Forgotten, there's a part where they just repeat the word never gonna forget or never gonna back out or something like that. And it reminded me of that Rick Roll song, like, never gonna give you
Wow.
up. And then, oh, On the Edge, I liked the middle part bridge where they kind of slow it down and it gets a little somber-ish, and then they immediately pick it back up. All in all, it's a pretty decent band. It's not one I would go to see a concert for, but
Did you, by any chance, listen to their older stuff?
no, I just listened to the In Vain album. I'll probably check out the other songs. Um, but other than that, I mean, what is it that stood out to you in regards to this band? Like what like why are you inclined to spread the word of As the
Because
Structure
they're
fails?
they're still a young band.
Oh, okay,
and-
so this is still a pretty up and coming band.
yeah, and but they released a few music videos. I'm pretty sure they tour, but I don't know if they've come to the U.S. yet or not.
Oh, so they're solely just in Canada.
Yeah, they might be. I'm not 100% sure, but
Okay.
they've only been around since like 2013, bro.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of interesting that they took about 5 years to make their 2nd
Mhm.
album, and then another 5 years to make their third.
well, there's a lot to their story,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's why I need to do
Do
my
a
research.
deep dive.
Yeah, and then I'll
Do bands normally release albums every 5 years?
Yeah, it all depends on the band or the artist and not in general.
Yeah, because I know like pop stars release one every year,
Mhm.
but they have the resources.
But I mean, it all depends on the person. Like, how many albums do you want to release? Like, either do you do quantity over quality or
Mhm.
quality versus quantity? It's up to you.
True. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess you could do the whole leave them wanting more or something. Like Omar, I know you would know what's another band that kind of releases an album like after decent amount of time in between.
Well, we had instances like that with System of a Down.
I remember that.
They haven't released an album since Hypnotize. AFI was like that for a minute.
Yeah, they were.
They released what was it? After Crash Love, they ended up releasing the Blood album, and then Burials, and then the Blood album,
Mhm.
with like about a 10-year gap or something.
Jeez.
Not a 10-year gap. It was like a 5-year gap between Crash Love and Burials.
Mm.
But
Didn't
For-
it take thrice a while to release an album as well?
yes, they did. It took them several years because they were trying to refine themselves. They were going through like what were they going? Like, it, not necessarily like anything personal, but they were just like redefining not their image, but their sound. Like they were trying to get a good grip as to what their sound.
What direction they want?
Yeah, because after Visu, I'm mispronouncing that most likely. They took an experimental turn with the Alchemy Index,
Mm.
and then they went on with I think it was Beggars, and then they stopped for a while, and then they went something. They released compilation albums after compilation albums, and then they ended up finding their sound again. I can't remember what their next album was after that.
Well, that's not really important now, but I guess I'm guessing that's a thing for these kind of bands to take a minute before they release anything, simply to kind of like get all their ducks in a row.
Well, it's not just that. It's
But
just
also, like, personal things could come up in your
That's true.
life.
yeah, they also
and-
want to take a break and
Mhm.
rest, because that's what Trivium is doing right now. After they just released their last album, and after they finish the tour, they're gonna take a break.
Yeah,
And
this
then-
year, 2024, which I'm kind of sad because that means I just have to wait one more year to
Yeah,
see them.
Because they're building their sound studio in an old
The hangar.
in an airplane hangar, an old airplane hangar.
Oh damn!
That's what it's called, the Hangar, and they've hosted a few live shows there,
Mhm.
and you could, and like when COVID happened, they that's how they did the live stream shows.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Trivium released like 3 albums back to back during COVID. Now they're gonna take a break, just relax, and then finish building their sound studio before they go back on tour.
No, wow.
But usually bands take at least 1 year after releasing an album to tour for that album. Then they take like maybe a 6-month rest, and then start writing and working on the next album, the follow up. Usually, it's about a 3 year gap between albums.
Ah, okay.
Average.
Yeah, but there's some artists that crank them out year after year.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said, Pop Stars is like every year or every other year. Michael, I think, released 5 albums in the span of 4 years. So,
And it's not albums; it's just singles
true.
or EPs.
As far as a metalcore band goes, how does it fare to other ones that you like?
I think they can hang with the best.
How so?
Because they have a lot of creativity to their music. They play their instruments really well. Like that. Like
That's for sure.
They can play.
I will say
They're
this
really
though.
talented with their instruments.
I will say this: their music made me think of a lot of other music, whether it was bands like Pierce the Veil, which kind of has it's emo screamo, but it had
Yeah,
similar.
Pierce Veil is emo with metalcore elements.
Oh well, there you go.
It's
So,
still metalcore.
um, freaking bands like
They call that scene though, like, but that's like a whole different type of subgenre.
no, but it definitely made me think of other bands like
Bullet
the
for
song
Valentine.
"Bullet for My Valentine."
Scene music.
Bands like Ammon, Amareth for
Attack
Live for the
Attack.
Kill, Attack. So, do you think that's something that we're going for, or that's just something because since metalcore is all kind of like intertwined, they
You
use
mean
a
like
lot.
Pierce the Veil?
No, I'm saying like because they kind of use similar breakdowns or whatever.
Actually, the funny thing is that you bring it up is that metalcore is. I watched a video on this just last night. This guy, he did this deep dive on metalcore, and he said like the biggest problem with that genre, it's a very broad genre versus like death metal.
Yeah,
Death metal has
it's it's clear cut.
you have death metal, you have your grindcore, you have deathcore, you have melodic deathcore, you have
Oh my
melodic
goodness.
death metal, like the genres are very specific, or the subgenres are very specifically broken down. So this guy on YouTube, he did a very specific breakdown of different type of metalcore groups. Like you have like your old school guys like Hatebreed, or it's just that constant punch in the face type of music, just like extremely harsh vocals and shit like that. And then you have like the melodic stuff like Killswitch Engage or Axing Alexandria and shit like that, you know.
Okay.
So like, and so like with these guys, because their first 2 albums, they're like I said, they were they're like Hatebreed and like early Parkway Drive, like with the constant aggression, and then but then the use of the breakdowns of like how Parkway Drive did it.
Okay, so
And this album for them is actually very experimental because you hear a little bit of new metal, you hear some prog metal stuff, like, and that opening lick is a prog metal type of, and the song In Vain.
In Vain, yeah.
You were mentioning that on the car ride.
Yeah, it sounded a little popish.
Yeah.
Kind of like something you hear.
Well, prog metal is just progressive metal. Bands like Tool and Dream Theater,
Dragon Force.
No,
Yeah.
No, Dragon Force
is
more,
power metal.
Yeah, power metal.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well, I mean,
Progressive metal could also include what? Perfect Circle, right?
yeah, Perfect
yeah.
Circle, Tool,
Perfect Circle,
It has a
Primus.
as far as having somebody who's never heard metalcore, is this one of the bands you would probably recommend to ease them in?
No.
No.
I think Killswitch Engage is a good starting point for people who want to get into metalcore.
Right.
Because they're not. It's more melodic. It's not as aggressive.
Okay. Is there anything you would change on kind of how they're going from this new album as opposed to their older albums? Or do you think this new change that they're going with
I
is
like
good?
some of the stuff. Like I like how they're being experimental. But one thing, like this is my own personal taste. I am not the biggest new metal fan there is. Like I really don't care for it.
So you feel like that's kind of how they're going towards
no,
new
they
metal?
just have that one song, and that is fine. Just
Which song is that? Is that
Um,
In Vain or The
no,
Promise?
Breakdown.
Oh, Breakdown. Oh, Back Down.
Back
Yeah.
down, yeah,
Back
back
Down.
down. That
Okay.
one, yeah, how they had the
It was okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it had the record scratching
Yeah.
and like a little bit of rapping to it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what essentially is new metal.
Yeah.
And the thing is that new metal isn't good. I'm sorry.
I like it.
The ones that I didn't like that much was Back Down and All the Weight. I felt like All the Weight seemed more like kind of how how Mike Shinoda did one of those in between songs that wasn't really a song but it was a mix. All the Weight kind of sounded like that to me, where it was mostly instrumental, and they had like a few lyrics in there. Which, by the way, if anybody listening, if you wanted to listen to, you actually listen to the instrumental on the album, which is included if you listen to it on Spotify. Um, Other than that, they have all three albums on Spotify, so you can check them out for yourself.
Maybe the instrumental stuff would be a good way for people to get into it.
Yeah.
Because without the yelling and screaming, like the music, if you just listen to the music, it's really well structured.
I will say this: there was like maybe one or two songs. I think no, it wasn't The Promise. I think Final Mistake. There was a part in Final Mistake where it's going good, and then all of a sudden it does a quick change, like out of nowhere. It goes from slow to 180, and it made me feel like I don't know if they got stuck or they needed to change and they couldn't figure out how to transition, and then they just went ahead and did it on the fly. Like it was like in the middle. Like I like the second part to that song better than the first part.
Why is that?
Well, I'm not into the screaming stuff, so it was a lot cleaner in the second part. So I did also get some Power Ranger vibes in On the Edge. On the Edge gave me, especially that guitar solo in the middle.
Omar, your thoughts?
Well, like I said, I was mostly listening to the album as background music. I was doing chores and stuff at home, and it was just background noise to me, honestly. Like I couldn't get into it as much as you have, but when it went went into the instrumental versions of the songs, that's when it started catching my attention. Like the music, the melodies, the guitars. It sounds something that you would hear in like one of those rhythm games for the metal.
Metal Hellsinger?
Yeah, that one.
Matt did, and
I know what you're talking about.
I have that
Something
game.
that you'd hear, not necessarily in Doom, but in something similar to that, like that. It's, it's very action metal.
Would you consider that for like some video game soundtrack, or maybe even a TV series soundtrack where it's like the fighting music, just the instrumental?
Yeah, the instrumentals. Yeah, I could see that because I kind of did envision like a fight scene happening.
Right?
When I was,
Yeah.
Again, I was just listening to it as just background noise as I was cleaning my place up, and then as soon as the instrumental started kicking in, I'm like, okay, this is starting to starting to sound good. But I need to go back and listen to the album again, like give it a proper listen to, without any distractions, and actually know which track I'm listening to, so I can know the names. But it is a band that I will go into and check their earlier stuff as well.
And we can get back into it when you do your deep dive.
Yeah.
We'll get we'll check out the other albums and see how it fares to this recent one.
I will admit that I do prefer the older stuff. That's just because I just like that type of aggressive music.
Yeah, we know.
And
Hey, I'm the same way.
I know.
But like, I do like the experiment that they took here. Like, it was extremely different, but
They took a gamble.
Yeah, they took a gamble, but it came out good.
You see, you see a lot of bands do that in usually the third or fourth album. I know Linkin Park did that on their second album. It was Meteora, right? No, not Meteora.
Hybrid 3 was their first album. Their second album was Reanimation.
Reanimation.
It was nothing but remixes.
They took a gamble with Reanimation, and it turned out to be one of their best albums in the entire franchise. I don't know why they called it a franchise. But you see that some bands do that, and then some fail. Do you think this will kind of set them back a little bit, or do you think they'll end up going back to their old ways?
If they want to move on with this style, I say go for it because it is really good. But if they go back to how their first two albums were.
You would
No
prefer it.
complaints from me.
You would prefer it though, or do you think this is a good ready?
Actually, I'm like kind of like 50-50 on it, because as much as I would like for them to release another album like their first and second album, I am I'm also excited to see what they do next.
What would you say to maybe them trying an in between? No. I mean, would that be possible?
If I did something like that before.
They
Okay.
could, like, where they
But is it possible to find an in between new metal and metalcore? Like something in between? What would you even call that?
I don't know, but the prog metal stuff, I'm for it. Like, keep at that stuff. But the thing with new metal, a lot of bands don't get it right. Like, they have, like, Linkin Park did it perfectly. They had enough screamy, enough rapping,
Clean lyrics. Yeah.
and enough alternative rock style,
Mm-hmm.
and enough, DJing. Those are like the four components that make up new metal.
I think the reason why Linkin Park did it well is because they had two separate singers doing the two separate parts.
That's
so where
true.
like there's other
Mike and
bands
Chester.
where they.
It's just the one singer doing this.
Oh wait, this is one singer? I thought
No,
it was
this is
two.
two.
Okay,
It is.
I was
two.
about
It's
to say.
actually, it's two brothers.
Yeah. Oh, they're brothers.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
Yeah, I was wondering about that because there's a guy who does the clean lyrics, and then there's a guy
they
that
both
does
do
the screamer.
clean and they both do screaming.
Well, the one that does the clean does more I want to call it the Chester screaming, whereas the other one does
Fry
the
screaming.
yeah
That's what it's called, like the higher pitch
Uh-huh.
screaming, and then you got like
The lower-
lower,
yeah,
like
so-
baritone ones.
yeah the other one.
The guttural.
Guttural
There you go.
ones. Yeah.
He was the one that was the kind of you heard him singing in the background,
Mm-hmm.
and then he would come in the chorus or in the bridges and starts doing his screaming. But other than that, the guy who does it clean, he's definitely I liked his voice. It definitely gave me West. Oh my God, Power Rangers singer name.
Yeah, Aaron Waters.
Aaron Waters.
Or Ron Wasserman.
Ron Wasserman, yeah. Definitely gave me Ron Wasserman vibes. Like, I definitely liked his sound. So, if they do something along the lines like that, and maybe throw in a little, I don't know, man, like, maybe make it faster. I don't know. I don't know about these things. So, I think that would maybe captivate me more. But that's me.
Hey, I'm always down with faster metal music.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I like faster the better for some reason.
The faster, the heavier, the better.
Not in all aspects, by the way. Anyways,
Yeah, you gotta have those nice, filthy halftime breakdowns.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, to slow things up, but like when the main part of the song is
Mhm.
just beating in your face like that, oh, yeah. I had to have the sound effects.
This is one of the few times we actually kept it PG, but Omar messed it up.
You're welcome.
Anyways, what are some final thoughts on Matt as in regards to this band? Like, because this is one of the few times. Actually, this is gonna be an ongoing segment. For those listening, Matt's gonna, have new bands coming up every now and then. And basically we'll do recommendations that you can check out, and then we'll do playlists and whatnot. But what's your final thoughts in regards to this band? What's something you kind of want to tell the audience as far as like why they should listen to them? Not just because they're good, okay?
Okay, one is for a very selfish reason. We get, you get them popular enough so they can start touring and they can have a live show here in San Diego.
Oh, you want to bring them here to Diego?
Yeah, so that way I can go see them live.
Oh.
So help your brother out, yeah?
Why don't you just fly out to Canada? It's cheap. No,
No,
flying to
it's not.
Canada is cheap.
Flying is internationally? No.
Ah,
He's gotta have his passport.
Yeah.
oh yeah, they took that away. I forgot. No, just kidding. Okay, so that's
Wow, make me sound like a criminal.
I know. But okay, what's another reason, a non-selfish reason why people should listen to this band?
Well, if you like metalcore and like if you want to hear some of that old school stuff in a modern era, that's one reason. But if you also want to hear something kind of like experimental and go like progressive, check that out as well. Like they have they're starting to offer a little bit of something for everybody.
To each their own at the end of the day. What you got anything to say, Omar?
No, I was gonna say like that last line that you just said, Matt, where they're offering something for everybody. That usually spells downfall for most bands because they're trying to appease everybody in a crowd rather than just focus
No,
on
yes, and no.
and especially with since they're a relatively new band. They've only been around for 4 years. They should really focus on what their main sound is and focus on their main like fan base core. And then that's when they start to grow, start tuning, start learning more as musicians, start learning new things, and then start bringing in slowly to the new changes, just as like Atreyu and Trivium and AFI did with their previous albums before they ended up finding their direct sound, which is a mesh of basically everything that they did.
Here's the thing, counterpoint to that, Avenged Sevenfold, they changed up their sound every album.
That's true.
Yeah, and but starting from their first 2 albums were just classic metalcore albums, but then they changed it with City of Evil.
But that's
third album. They did the same thing. First 2 albums are kind of the same. Then they changed their sound on the 3rd album, and then every album after that, none of their albums sound the same.
No, City of Evil and their self-titled albums sound very similar because they do have that southern twang metal in their tracks.
Southern twang, that's interesting. Either way, I mean,
City of Evil was a thrash metal,
but it had a lot of southern undertones.
Either way, I mean, check it out for yourself, folks. Tell us what you think. You can, either listen to all 3 albums or just In Vain, and decide for yourself. Either way, it doesn't take much to take. I mean, we literally listened to the In Vain album on the way here. So if you have like an hour to kill, not even an hour, like 30 minutes to kill, you can listen to the whole album and just let us know what you think. And if you have any other bands we should review, or maybe any bands we should check out ourselves, let us know in the comments. Again, this is going to be a recurring segment. Matt's going to have more bands to recommend. Omar's probably going to have more bands to recommend. And they'll probably do another freaking tribute to Trivium episode.
Are we done now with that?
No, but you have a couple in between every time we talk about music.
Well, yeah. They're gods to us.
Either way, thank you for tuning in. We'll post the next episode the following Sunday. And as always, thank you for listening, guys. Say goodbye.
Have a good night, guys. Have a good one.
Bye.